Have you ever lost yourself in the pursuit of social approval? Have you ever felt like you've lost yourself in the chase for social approval? That constant need to smile, nod, and fit in just to be liked. The social rituals we follow, laughing at jokes we don't find funny, agreeing with things we don't actually believe are more than just simple behaviors. They can slowly eat away at who we truly are. But what if I told you that the more you try to please others, the further you distance yourself from your own mind, your own clarity, and ultimately, your true essence? It's easy to get caught up in this cycle, especially when society values conformity and connection over authenticity and individuality. We're constantly told that the key to happiness is being liked, accepted, and surrounded by people. But have you ever stopped to think about what you lose in the process? What happens to your individuality when you bend over backward just to fit in? That's exactly what we're going to explore today. Let's take a deep dive into something that most of us ignore in our day-to-day lives: the hidden cost of being too sociable. It's not just about fitting in, it's about losing yourself in the process. The constant need for validation can slowly drain your sense of self. The irony here is that in the pursuit of belonging, we often become mere reflections of others, losing the essence of what makes us unique in the first place. And that brings us to the philosophy of Niccolò Machiavelli. Machiavelli, the famous political philosopher, once observed that the more we get involved in the social game, the more we risk becoming a mere pawn in it, controlled by the forces around us, rather than mastering those forces ourselves. This might sound a little harsh, but stick with me. By the end of this video, you might just be ready to stop pleasing others and start focusing on the only person whose approval truly matters: yourself. Let's face it. We all want to be liked. It's human nature. We crave social acceptance and the sense of belonging that comes with it. But the more we crave that approval, the more we lose sight of who we really are. It's like we're constantly wearing a mask, one that we put on to fit into the world around us. We smile even when we're not happy, agree when we should speak out, and silence our true thoughts just to avoid rocking the boat. With each of these small concessions, we give up a little piece of ourselves. Over time, these sacrifices accumulate, and without realizing it, we become strangers to ourselves. Every time we force ourselves to be something we're not, every time we modify our behavior to meet others' expectations, we lose a bit of our clarity, our edge, and most importantly, our authenticity. It's not just a mental adjustment. It's a deep internal compromise that impacts who we are at the core. But here's the twist. The more we start to become like everyone else, the less we become ourselves. It's a dangerous shift that creeps up on us. We think we're blending in, becoming part of the group. But the reality is, we're eroding our individuality. It might not be immediately noticeable, but deep inside, you start to feel something shifting. That inner voice, the one that used to tell you what you believed, what you stood for, what you wanted out of life, starts to quiet down. And before you know it, it's drowned out by the noise of the crowd. You might not even realize it at first. You might feel connected to the people around you. You might even feel accepted by the group. But there's an emptiness underneath it all, a subtle feeling of disconnect that you can't quite name. You may find yourself surrounded by friends, but feeling strangely alone. It's like you're playing a role in someone else's story, instead of living your own. Machiavelli was acutely aware of this dynamic. He observed throughout history how people often follow the crowd, pretending everything is fine, because it's easier than standing alone and thinking for oneself. The problem, he believed, wasn't that people were ignorant of their individuality. It was that they were afraid to embrace it. The world doesn't encourage independence or authenticity. It encourages conformity and compliance. And when you start thinking differently, when you dare to think outside the norms and challenge the crowd, you become a threat. This is the point where the social game shifts. It's no longer about fitting in. It's about maintaining your individuality in a world that constantly pressures you to blend in. Society doesn't want you to be free to think for yourself. It doesn't want you to break the mold because, when you do, you become unmanageable, unpredictable. And that, according to Machiavelli, is when the world pushes back against you. But here's the crucial question. Will you bend to the pressure to fit in? Or will you embrace the discomfort of standing alone and remain true to yourself? The more sociable we are, the more we diminish our intelligence and clarity. It's a slow and often imperceptible process. But every time we suppress our true thoughts, every time we surrender a piece of ourselves for the sake of social comfort, we weaken our ability to think deeply and independently. We become more attuned to the approval of others than to our own internal compass. This isn't just about agreeing with others in small talk. This is about compromising your very identity. As Machiavelli suggests, when you start living for the appearance of virtue, when you make the need for social approval a driving force in your life, you begin to forget how to live with true depth. You might become more accepted, more sociable, but you'll also become more superficial, more disconnected from the real you. You'll stop thinking for yourself and start echoing the thoughts and opinions of the group around you. So, what happens when you keep sacrificing your authenticity for the sake of social acceptance? You build a mask, brick by brick, and eventually, you start believing that mask is who you truly are. The real you fades away, and in its place is a persona created to fit in, to please others, to avoid discomfort. And that's where the danger lies. You stop thinking for yourself. You stop acting from your true desires. And instead, you act based on what others expect of you. In the end, it's not just about losing your edge or your clarity. It's about losing yourself. And the real tragedy is that you might not even realize it until it's too late. But it's never too late to take control of your mind and your life again. It's never too late to rediscover who you truly are underneath all the social pressure and begin to live a life that's authentically your own. It's easy to think that being accepted by everyone around you is a victory. After all, who wouldn't want to be liked, popular, and surrounded by friends? It feels good to be part of the group, to be seen as someone who belongs. You're invited to the best events. You're included in the conversations, and you're made to feel like you're a vital part of the social fabric. But when you really stop and think about it, can you recall the last time you made a decision without wondering how others would react? When did you last speak your mind freely, without filtering yourself just to avoid conflict? It's not easy to face the truth, but many of us have been conditioned to sacrifice our individuality for the sake of acceptance. We play along with the crowd, smile when we don't feel like it, and agree with opinions we don't even believe in just to fit in. These little compromises, though seemingly harmless in the moment, chip away at your true self. It happens so gradually that you barely notice it. Every forced smile, every time you suppress your own opinion, and every situation where you stay silent just to avoid rocking the boat is a tiny betrayal of your true self. You may think these actions are harmless, but they accumulate over time, creating a facade that hides the real you. You may even fool yourself into believing that you're thriving, but deep down, something feels off. The truth is, you're losing the very thing that makes you unique yourself. One day, you wake up and realize that you don't even know who you are anymore. You've been so busy trying to be liked, so wrapped up in the social game, that you've lost touch with your core identity. You've lost the clarity of mind that allows you to make decisions based on your own values, and not based on the expectations of others. The tragedy here isn't that you've been accepted by others. It's that, in the process of trying to be accepted, you've lost the most important thing, your sense of self. The person you used to be, the person you truly are beneath the layers of social performance, starts to fade. You begin to live for the approval of others, and in doing so, you become a stranger to yourself. Think about it. Have you ever felt disconnected, even while surrounded by people? Have you ever experienced that odd sense of emptiness at a party, as if everyone is talking, but no one is really saying anything? Have you ever been in a group, laughing and smiling, but felt completely alone? This is the hidden cost of social conformity. It's the quiet realization that, in the pursuit of fitting in, you've surrendered your most valuable asset, your individuality, and this process doesn't happen overnight. It's a slow erosion of your authenticity, little by little, decision by decision. You might not even recognize it at first, but as time goes on, the whispers of your true self become quieter, drowned out by the noise of the group. What's left is a shell of a person, someone who knows how to play the game, but has forgotten how to be themselves. What does it mean to be sovereign? Now that we've examined the cost of losing yourself in the pursuit of social approval, let's take a step back and consider an alternative path, one that leads to true independence and power. What if the secret to real strength and intelligence isn't in how well you can please the people around you, but in how well you can stand on your own? Unapologetically yourself. Machiavelli wasn't writing for the masses. He wasn't interested in offering advice to those who were content to follow the crowd, to blend in and do what was expected. No. Machiavelli wrote for those who dared to think for themselves, those who had the courage to stand apart, even when society didn't understand them. He believed in the concept of sovereignty, not sovereignty over others, but sovereignty over yourself. This was the foundation of his philosophy. To be sovereign is to take full ownership of your thoughts, actions, and decisions. It means living in alignment with your truth, not bending it to fit someone else's expectations. Sovereignty is about being so firm in your own beliefs that you don't need anyone else's validation to feel secure in who you are. It's about being your true self in the world, unapologetically and without compromise, in a society that constantly tells us to conform, to fit in, and to be normal. This idea of sovereignty can feel radical. We're taught from a young age that fitting in is the key to success, that the more friends we have, the more liked we are, the better we are. But what Machiavelli understood, and what we must come to understand, is that true power doesn't come from fitting in. It comes from standing firm in your own beliefs and actions, even when the world around you is trying to pull you in a different direction. Machiavelli wrote about the importance of this kind of self-mastery, of not allowing yourself to be controlled by external forces. Sovereignty is about owning your mind, your values, and your decisions, no matter how unpopular they may be. It's about having the strength to say, "This is who I am," and living that truth, regardless of how others may perceive it. The concept of sovereignty isn't about rejecting others or isolating yourself from the world. It's not about turning into a hermit or becoming antisocial. Rather, it's about understanding that your worth and your power come from within. You don't need to please everyone around you. You don't need to mold yourself into a version of you that is palatable to others. Sovereignty is about living your life on your own terms, unapologetically and confidently. So, what does it mean to truly be sovereign? It means you stop asking for permission to be who you are. You stop pretending to be someone you're not in order to fit in. It means that when you make decisions, you do so based on your own beliefs and values, not on what others think or expect of you. And when you encounter obstacles or people who try to force you into their mold, you don't bend. Instead, you stand firm in your truth, and in doing so, you begin to shape the world around you. Machiavelli's vision of the sovereign mind was not one of arrogance or tyranny over others. Rather, it was a vision of true, personal power. It was about mastering yourself, not controlling others. It was about the clarity that comes from knowing exactly who you are and standing by that knowledge, even in the face of adversity. To live sovereignly is to reject the idea that your worth is dependent on the opinions or approval of others. Instead, your worth comes from your ability to live in accordance with your own truth. The sovereign mind does not need validation. It radiates its own power because it is rooted in its own identity. In a world that often prizes conformity over individuality, being sovereign can feel like a radical act. But in reality, it is the only true form of freedom. Sovereignty allows you to live your life without the constant burden of trying to fit into a mold that isn't your own. It allows you to act and think independently, and in doing so, it liberates you from the pressure of social expectations. Being sovereign means that, while others may conform and play along with the social game, you are free to play by your own rules. You don't need to compromise your integrity for the sake of acceptance. And that, my friends, is where true intelligence lies. The real power of sovereignty is the ability to think for yourself, to stand firm in your beliefs, and to make decisions based on your own values, not based on the need for approval from others. When you live this way, your actions become authentic, and your words have weight. People begin to respect you, not because you've played the game, but because you've mastered yourself. In the end, sovereignty isn't about isolation or detachment from the world. It's about reclaiming your own mind, owning your decisions, and having the courage to be yourself, no matter the cost. It's about standing tall in your truth, even when the world around you is telling you to shrink, to conform, and to become something you're not. So, ask yourself, are you ready to step into your own sovereignty? Are you ready to stop seeking validation and start living authentically? Because the true power doesn't lie in fitting in. It lies in being unapologetically yourself, regardless of the noise around you. The choice is yours. Will you continue to chase social approval, or will you step into the power of your own sovereignty? Because once you do, there's no going back. In a world that constantly demands our attention, where social media notifications buzz and group chats ping with endless distractions, solitude often carries a negative connotation. We associate being alone with loneliness or sadness. But in reality, solitude is far more than just an absence of people. It's the birthplace of clarity. It's in those quiet moments, when we are truly alone, that we can hear our inner voice, clear and untainted by the noise of the world. When we step away from the constant buzz of social expectations, we finally make space to understand who we truly are and what we truly want. The world around us constantly tells us who we should be, how we should act, and what we should want. But when we embrace solitude, we gain the mental space to filter out all of these external influences and connect with our authentic selves. The key to this isn't just being alone, it's being present with your own mind. Solitude is not about isolating yourself in a physical sense. It's about creating an environment where your thoughts can run freely without interruption. This is when we discover our true desires, untangled from societal pressures. When you embrace solitude, you stop relying on external validation to tell you who you are. You start to build a strong internal foundation based on your own convictions, values, and clarity. This time spent in solitude doesn't have to be silent or still. It could be a walk through nature, a quiet hour spent journaling, or simply sitting alone with your thoughts. What matters is that you're not being influenced by the noise of the world around you, the distractions, the judgments, and the expectations of others fade away, leaving you with a clearer picture of yourself. This is when the tools of your mind begin to sharpen. Social interactions, while important, can only take you so far. True growth happens when you're alone, in a space where your thoughts are your own, and you can trust them without interference. Solitude allows you to reconnect with your core, regain mental clarity, and develop a deeper understanding of your purpose. Now, let's discuss clarity. Clarity is not something that's easily attained in our noisy, fast-paced world. It's rare, almost sacred. It requires solitude, patience, and a willingness to dig deep into yourself, often confronting things you may not want to face. But the beauty of clarity is that it reveals the truth. It allows you to see the world as it is, not as others want you to see it. When you gain clarity, you stop fitting into the mold others have set for you. You begin to see things from your own perspective, with your own understanding. However, here's the catch: clarity is dangerous to those who thrive on confusion and conformity. Society does not want clarity. It thrives on the gray areas, the uncertainties, the crowd mentality. When you begin to see the world for what it truly is, when you start thinking independently, when you stop conforming to the expectations placed upon you, that's when the real challenge begins. That's when you stop blending in and you start standing out. People don't like it when you don't fit in. They don't like it when you challenge the status quo or refuse to go along with the crowd. They may label you as arrogant, aloof, or cold. But in truth, what they're reacting to is your refusal to play their game. What they can't handle is your clarity. It forces them to see the world through a lens they may not be ready for. When you stop needing the validation of others, you stop playing by the social rules, and that's when real power begins to take shape. Machiavelli understood this dynamic better than most. He knew that true power didn't come from being liked. It didn't come from blending in with the crowd. True power came from being unshakable in your beliefs, in your thoughts, and in your presence. When you rely on external validation to tell you who you are, you give away your personal power. But when you stop caring about what others think, when you stop seeking approval, that's when you begin to reclaim control over your mind. And that's where real power lies. So, let's stop for a moment and reflect on this. How often do you base your decisions on what others will think? How often do you change your behavior or suppress your true opinions? Just to keep the peace, just to be accepted, just to avoid conflict. Each time you do this, you give a little bit of yourself away. And over time, this constant sacrifice chips away at your mental clarity. The more you demand approval from others, the more you sell your soul to the crowd. But the moment you stop caring what others think, the moment you embrace your own truth and clarity, you begin to reclaim your power. You stop needing the world's approval to feel validated. And that is where true personal sovereignty begins. At the end of the day, it's your choice. The path you choose to walk is yours alone. Will you continue to play the social game? Will you keep seeking validation with every handshake, every like on social media, and every smile you force yourself to offer? Or will you take the path of sovereignty, the path that requires you to stand firm in your own truth, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it's lonely, and even when the world pushes back against you? The choice between these two paths is stark, but it's the most important decision you'll make. The path of sociability, the path of constantly seeking approval and fitting in, is the easy one, but it comes at a cost. The cost is your authenticity. The cost is your mental clarity. The cost is your true power. On the other hand, the path of sovereignty is harder. It's lonelier. Yes, but it's also sharper, clearer, and ultimately more fulfilling. You don't have to please anyone anymore. You don't have to pretend to be someone you're not. You don't have to water down your thoughts and opinions just to fit into a group. You begin to think for yourself, to act based on your own beliefs, and to live with purpose and intention. The path to sovereignty is about living without the constant need for approval, without the pressure to blend in. It's about standing tall in your own truth, regardless of the discomfort it may cause others. You might find yourself questioning whether this path is worth it. Is it worth it to reject the social norms and the desire to be liked? Is it worth it to embrace solitude and mental clarity, even if it means standing alone? Here's the reality: the true cost of being sociable, of constantly trying to fit in and seek approval, is not just losing your edge, it's losing yourself. And once you realize that, once you see that you're sacrificing your authenticity for fleeting approval, you'll begin to walk a different path. The path to sovereignty, where you can finally live for yourself and no one else. So, are you ready to stop performing for the approval of others? Are you ready to take ownership of your thoughts, your actions, and your mind? Are you ready to stop fitting in and start standing out in your own truth? If so, then it's time to make a change. Don't let the noise of the world drown out your clarity. Don't let the pressure to be liked keep you from embracing your true self. Start living with purpose, with intention, and with mental clarity. The more you focus on yourself, the less you'll need the approval of others. If you're ready to walk away from the game of social validation and step into the power of sovereignty, then make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Let's talk about it. What's your take on sovereignty? Are you ready to embrace the power that comes with clarity? Or are you still struggling to break free from the chains of social approval? Share your thoughts below. Let's discuss the path to true self-mastery together.